Hi, my name is Jennifer Brittingham and I'm a clinician here at the Smart Center in Jenkintown, PA. Thank you for joining us today. I'm going to be discussing a topic called the spot. All information that we're going to talk about today is part of Dr. Shipon-Blum's Social Communication Anxiety Treatment Program, SCAT for short. So let's get started. The spot. So what is that? The spot is typically referred to in our SCAT program as a safe, quiet, a predictable location, usually in the classroom. We're usually talking about the spot when we talk about classroom interventions in a school, or even sometimes an organized, structured group environment. The spot can be used there as well. And again, it's a safe, quiet, predictable location away from the larger group where majority of kids are present. Where can the spot be? Well, the spot can be in a number of places in a school setting. So let me start by listing three primary places that the spot is. The first could be a staff person's office. So to give you an example, that might be a speech pathologist's room, maybe the counselor's office. Those sometimes can be an area away from the larger group, and that typically is the classroom setting. Another location that we might use for the spot is outside the classroom, maybe just in the hallway. And so oftentimes a child may feel more comfortable working on a particular communication goal or even assessment with their teacher or peers when they're outside of the classroom setting and the hallway is quiet. For other children, the spot can be right in the classroom. And you might be thinking, well, the classroom, that's where all the kids are. And depending on the size of your child's classroom, whether it's a small classroom setting or upwards of 28 students, certainly there may not be many quiet locations within that environment, but you'd be surprised. There are a lot of areas within the classroom that can serve as the spot. So a few examples inside the classroom that often get used, and this is for every child who might be younger and even our older middle school and teens that are utilizing that safe, quiet, predictable environment. One example could be for our younger children, maybe the coat room or where the cubbies are. Sometimes that's sort of tucked away and a child may feel more comfortable going there to work on whatever the task may be. For some, it could be maybe a book nook. So maybe there's an area of the classroom where there's a reading corner and beanbag chairs. That might serve as a child's comfortable environment. Others, it might be maybe a reading table towards the back of the room, or maybe your classroom has an assessment table that the teacher utilizes. This can also be a great location for the spot. And for some kids, it could be the teacher's desk, or maybe just the last desk in the classroom row. Now, one thing all of those locations have in common are that the commonality there is they're all away from the hubbub of the rest of the group. So in many of those examples, they're off to the side or they're in the back of the classroom. So that child doesn't feel like as they're doing that work or taking on that communication goal, that others are watching, listening to what that child is doing with their peers or their teacher. So those are all examples of where a spot can be. Now, who creates the spot? Which is a great question. We get asked that often. It can be the parent, teacher, child. It depends. So for one, the teacher might create the spot. So for our younger kids, oftentimes teachers have an idea of the layout of their classroom and they may feel that the book nook is a perfect opportunity. Or maybe there's a whiteboard in the classroom or a bookshelf, and behind that structure is a good place. So perhaps the teacher creates the spot for the child, and the child naturally gravitates there with the teacher as they go to work on items. For our older kids, oftentimes they may help create the spot and provide feedback. So for some of our older children, they may prefer a specific teacher's room or office because they're aware of the dynamics of how often people come in or the timing of when people come in or during certain activities within their classroom where people tend to congregate. So utilizing our children as part of the creation process is huge. And it's also a key element because every time our children participate and take part in that creation, it provides inner control, it empowers them, and that's key for their treatment journey. Lastly, with the spot, sometimes teachers may ask, we know that it's a predictable place. And predictability just means that child gets into the routine, the expectation of going to that particular environment to do the tasks. They know it's a comfortable place. They often have either heard themselves communicating in that environment, they see themselves participating and more comfortable. So it becomes a predictable, expected environment to work on things. But the other part of that is predictability versus permanent. So should the spot be a permanent place all the time? And I get asked that in our school consults often. The answer is simply no. The spot shouldn't be permanent over the longevity of the school year. For instance, because all of our children, whether it's your child or your student, their selective mutism is individual to them. And so SCAT is not a one-size-fits-all program in terms of same goals, same concepts, but more of utilizing why does that child have selective mutism? What are the contributing factors that developed it? And in addition, where are they on the social communication bridge? So what stage are they in? And based on that information, we want to then develop interventions that fit that child's specific need. So knowing where and when to utilize the spot is really important for a clinician to help you develop. So again, it can be predictable, but is it permanent? The answer is no, because over time, if we're working the interventions correctly, we want to see that child progress. So to give you a quick example, if a child's spot is, let's just say, in the counselor's office, certainly over time, we want to help that child gain more comfort with peers and their communication and move that child gradually back into the classroom. Now that could be a series of steps. It might look something like working on a communication task in the counselor's office, outside the hall, closer to their classroom, outside their classroom, perhaps in the empty classroom, and then we're working on inside room spot work now. So there's always a progression, and it should change as we're working those interventions. So I hope that's been helpful to have a little bit of information about the spot. Thank you for listening and participating in today's quick tip of the day. We ask you, certainly, if you have more questions or want to know, how do we create an individualized plan for our child, or how do we know how to create that spot? Certainly we ask, if you want to learn more about our programs and services, visit us at www.selectivemutismcenter.org. There you'll find information about services such as school consultations, which can be done both locally and for families who are remote and schools that are remote. We do those often, where I can go into the school or also do a web consultation or phone consultation. You also may want to learn about CommuniCamp, which is a group treatment plan that involves a school setting to really work some of these strategies and help for the development of these interventions. Again, if you'd like to know more about what we do and how we do that and how we can service your school or your child, we ask that you visit us. Be sure to look for resources in the box below for more tips and tools. And again, like this video and subscribe so you can hear more tips and tools as we move along. Thanks for joining us. Take care.